Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The gun on the mahogany desk wasn't for show, but neither were the two terrified children hiding behind my legs, clutching the fabric of my worn-out trousers like a lifeline. 3 years, the man behind the desk whispered, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the floorboards and straight into my marrow. He didn't look at the weapon. His predatory, golden eyes were fixed entirely on the two small faces peeking out from behind me. Faces that were undeniable miniature reflections of his own sharp jawline and arrogant brow. I spent a fortune hunting ghosts, tearing apart the city for a whisper of the creature who ruined me, only to find you scrubbing my floors. Cassian Valerius, the Alpha CEO of Obsidian Corp and the uncrowned king of the city's underworld, stood up. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. He walked around the desk, a panther stalking a wounded bird. I wanted to scream, to deny it, to beg for mercy, but my throat only produced a ragged, broken gasp. I was Julian, the mute janitor, the invisible ghost. But to him, I was the thief who had stolen his heirs. The tragedy of my life began long before I met Cassian Valerius, but the night I met him was the night my fate was sealed in gold and blood. I was once Julian Vane, the youngest son of a prestigious family, known for a singing voice that could bring a crowded opera house to tears. That was before the accident. A prank by a jealous stepbrother involving lie and a shattered wine glass that stole my voice and turned my throat into a landscape of scar tissue. Disowned for being broken goods, stripped of my inheritance, and cast out of high society, I became a phantom. To survive, I took jobs no one else wanted. But desperation leads to mistakes. 3 years ago, I had taken a serving gig at the Masquerade of Sins, an exclusive gala for the city's alphas. I needed the money for rent. I didn't know the staff were expected to be on the menu. When the heat hit me, a synthetic pheromone spiked into the staff water supply. I had fled into the upper corridors, my body burning with a fever that consumed reason. I stumbled into the wrong suite, the presidential suite. The room was dark, smelling of expensive scotch, rain, and distinct, overpowering cedarwood. Cassian was there. He was blindfolded, nursing a migraine, exhausted by the sycophants and noise of the party below. He sensed my intrusion, but he didn't smell the cheap fear of a servant. He smelled the pheromones and the unique, sweet scent of my distress, vanilla and old books. He had asked who I was. I couldn't answer. I could only whimper. To a man like Cassian, surrounded by liars and flatterers, my silence was the most honest thing he had ever encountered. He mistook my inability to speak for submission. He mistook my desperate clinging for desire. "Quiet," he had groaned, pulling me into the abyss of his bed sheets. Finally, someone who knows how to be quiet. That night was a blur of pleasure and pain, a frantic collision of two lonely souls. He was rough, demanding, and alpha taking what he needed, but there was a worshipful intensity to how he held me. For a few hours, I wasn't the mute cripple. I was his anchor. I fled before dawn, stealing a heavy trench coat to cover my shame. I left no name, no note, just the lingering scent of vanilla on his pillows. I didn't know then that I had taken something with me. 2 somethings. Raising twins in the slums of Sector 4 was a slow kind of dying. Leo and Alara were miracles I didn't deserve. Leo had Cassian's brooding intensity, even at 3 years old, while Alara possessed his sharp, calculating gaze. They were alphas in the making, powerful even as toddlers. Feeding them required more than my meager savings. When the medical bills for Alara's asthma began to pile up, I had no choice. I applied for a night cleaning position at Obsidian Corp. It was the highest paying unskilled labor in the city. It was also the lion's den. For 6 months I was careful. I wore a mask, oversized gray coveralls, and kept my head down. I became the ghost of Floor 40, the cleaner who left the executive suite spotless and vanished before the first suit arrived. I thought I was safe. I was a fool. It happened on a Tuesday. I was polishing the grand piano in the executive lounge. a habit I couldn't break. I wasn't playing, just running a rag over the keys, but the nostalgia hit me. My fingers, remembering a life before the scars, ghosted over a generic melody. I hummed. It wasn't a song, just a vibrating, raspy sound from my damaged vocal cords. That sound, a voice said from the shadows. I froze. Cashin stepped out of his private elevator. He wasn't supposed to be here at 3 a.m. He looked ragged, his tie undone, eyes bloodshot. He had been hunting. I've heard that sound in my dreams for 3 years, he whispered, walking toward me. I dropped the rag. I turned to run, but the security doors clicked shut with a magnetic hum. Turn around, he commanded. The alpha voice. It compelled obedience on a biological level. My knees shook as I turned. He ripped the mask from my face. He studied my scars, the mismatched clothes, the terror in my eyes. He leaned in, inhaling sharply. The scent of vanilla, faint beneath the smell of cleaning chemicals, hit him. You, he breathed, a mix of awe and fury. The mute. He didn't fire me. He didn't call the police. He simply stared, his mind working through the implications. Then he grabbed my wrist. Where have you been? I tried to pull away, shaking my head, pointing to my throat. I know you can't speak, he snapped, his grip bruising. But you can write. You can nod. Why did you run? I couldn't tell him I ran because I was afraid he'd kill me for staining his reputation. I couldn't tell him about the twins. But fate, cruel and efficient, decided for me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The screen lit up with a photo of the babysitter, followed by a frantic text. Asterisk hospital. Alara can't breathe. Asterisk, the color drained from my face. I forgot Cashin. I forgot the fear. I wrenched my arm free with a strength born of panic and sprinted for the elevator. Cashin didn't stop me. He followed me. The pediatric ward of St. Jude's Charity Hospital was a grim place. Peeling paint, flickering lights, and the smell of antiseptic barely masking the scent of sickness. I found Alara attached to a nebulizer, her small chest heaving. Leo was sitting on the plastic chair next to her, holding her hand, his face a mask of stoic worry that mirrored Cashin's so perfectly it hurt to look at. I rushed to them, falling to my knees, checking Alara's vitals, smoothing her hair. I'm here, I signed, my hands trembling. Papa is here. Leo looked at me, tears finally spilling over. Papa! She turned blue. I pulled them both into a hug, burying my face in their necks, rocking them. I didn't see the shadow falling over us until the nurse spoke. Sir, you can't be in here, the nurse said, looking up. I turned. Cashin stood in the doorway of the cramped ward. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring at Leo. Leo stared back, golden eyes locking onto golden eyes. The silence that stretched between the billionaire CEO and the toddler in second-hand clothes was louder than a scream. Cashin took a step forward, his hand reaching out as if in a trance. Who? His voice cracked. Who are they? I stood up, placing myself between him and the children. I was thin, exhausted, and mute, but I bared my teeth. I would not let him take them. Don't lie to me, Cashin growled, the shock turning into a cold, terrifying rage. They have my eyes. They have my blood. He looked at me, betrayal warring with possession. You stole my children, which brings us back to the gun on the desk. We were in his penthouse now. He had escorted us out of the hospital, transferred Alara to the best private clinic in the city, and then dragged me and Leo to his fortress in the sky. 3 years, Cashin repeated. I mourned the loss of that night. I obsessed over the silence you left behind. And all this time, you were raising my heirs in a rat-infested slum. He slammed his hand on the desk. Give me one reason why I shouldn't throw you in a cell for kidnapping and fraud. I reached for the notepad on his desk. My hands shook, but I forced the pen to move. Asterisk, I didn't steal them. I protected them. Asterisk, Cashin read the note. He scoffed, a harsh, ugly sound. Protected them? For me? I own this city, Julian. I could have given them the world. Instead, my daughter almost died because you couldn't afford medicine. That stung. It was the truth, and it cut deeper than any knife. I looked down, shame burning my cheeks. I protected them from your world, I wrote. Asterisk from the people who poured acid down my throat. Do you think your enemies would have let your bastards live? Asterisk Cashin froze. He reread the note, his eyes narrowing. He looked at the scar tissue traversing my neck, really seeing it for the first time. The violence of it. Who did that to you? He asked, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Doesn't matter, I wrote. Asterisk I am nobody. But they are yours. Take them. Give them the life they deserve. Just, please don't make me leave them entirely. Let me be the servant. Let me be the ghost. Just let me see them grow up. Asterisk I pushed the note toward him and fell to my knees, forehead touching the cold floor. It was the ultimate surrender. I was giving up my pride, my freedom, everything just to stay in their orbit. The silence stretched for an eternity. Then I heard movement. Leather shoes on marble. He was standing in front of me. Stand up, he commanded. I didn't move. Julian, stand up. Strong hands gripped my shoulders and hauled me up. Cashin didn't look angry anymore. He looked haunted. You think I want a servant? He brought his face close to mine, his thumb tracing the jagged line of the scar on my throat. You think I spent 3 years searching for the mystery Omega just to make him a maid? He pulled me closer, the heat of his body radiating through my thin shirt. You are not going to be a servant, Cashin stated, his voice possessing the absolute certainty of a monarch. You are the mother of my children. You are the only person who ever gave me peace. You are going to live here. You are going to sleep in my bed. And you are going to learn that I protect what is mine. He glanced over my shoulder at Leo, who was watching with wide eyes. And God help the person who touched you, Cashin vowed, his eyes darkening with a promise of violence that made the gun on the desk look like a toy. Because I will burn their entire world to ash. Life in the penthouse was a gilded cage, but a comfortable one. The transition was jarring. One day I was scrubbing floors. The next, I was draped in silk, eating meals prepared by a Michelin star chef. The twins adapted with frightening speed. Alara, now healthy, had Cashin wrapped around her little finger. Leo followed Cashin everywhere, mimicking his walk, his glare. But the tension between Cashin and me remained. He wanted to own me. I wanted to keep my independence. He showered me with gifts, jewelry, clothes, a grand piano, but he wouldn't let me leave the building without a security detail. It's for your safety, he insisted one evening. We were on the balcony, the city lights sprawling below us. I signed, I am a prisoner. You are a treasure, he corrected, sipping his wine. There is a difference. Not to the bird in the cage, I signed back. He set his glass down and trapped me against the railing. Then sing for me, bird. Or scream. Make a sound. Prove to me you're here and not just a ghost I'm trying to hold on to. It was a cruel thing to say to a mute. He knew it. He saw the flash of hurt in my eyes and immediately regretted it. Julian, He reached out, but I pulled away. I went to the piano. The Steinway he had bought me. I hadn't played it yet. I sat down, the ivory keys gleaming under the chandelier. I began to play. Not a lullaby, not a ballad. I played Rachmaninoff. Heavy, stormy, violent chords that crashed against the silence of the room. I poured my frustration, my fear, and my longing into the music. I played the words I couldn't speak. I played the anger of the years lost in poverty. I played the confusing, terrifying love that was blooming in my chest for this controlling, broken man. When I finished, my chest was heaving. The final chord hung in the air. Cashin was standing by the piano. He looked shattered. I hear you, he whispered. He knelt beside the bench, taking my trembling hands in his. I hear you, Julian. He kissed my palms, then my wrists, then the scar on my throat. It wasn't sexual. It was an apology. It was reverence. We will find the ones who hurt you, he promised against my skin. And then, when you are safe, truly safe, if you want to fly away, I will open the cage. But I will spend every day until then convincing you to stay. The peace didn't last. It never does in our world. The annual shareholders' gala was mandatory. Cashin insisted I attend. He wanted to debut me. He wanted to claim me publicly. Wear the black suit, he said, and the emerald brooch. It matches your eyes. I was terrified. The gala was filled with the very people who had watched my family fall, who had sneered as I was cast out. As we entered the ballroom, the whispers started. Asterisk, is that the vain boy? The mute? What is he doing with Cashin Valerius? Asterisk, Cashin held my waist with an iron grip, his presence a shield. He glared at anyone who dared to look at me with anything less than respect. But the danger wasn't in the whispers. It was in the champagne. I saw him across the room. Elias, my stepbrother, the one who held the glass of lie all those years ago. He was smiling, chatting with Cashin's biggest corporate rival. I froze. The phantom pain in my throat flared. Elias saw me. His smile widened, predatory and cruel. He raised a glass in a mocking toast. I tugged on Cashin's sleeve. I needed to leave. Couldn't breathe. What is it? Cashin asked, sensing my panic. I pointed at Elias. Cashin followed my finger. He stiffened. Him? The vain heir. I nodded frantically. Cashin didn't ask questions. He didn't need a written note. The look of pure, unadulterated terror on my face told him everything. Stay here, Cashin said, his voice devoid of emotion. Do not move from this spot. He walked toward Elias. The crowd seemed to part for him like the Red Sea. I watched, heart hammering, as Cashin approached my tormentor. Elias looked smug, expecting a business greeting. Instead, Cashin didn't stop. He didn't speak. He grabbed a bottle of champagne from a passing waiter, shattered the bottom against a marble pillar, and in one fluid motion, pinned Elias against the wall. The jagged glass pressed against Elias's jugular. The music stopped. The room gasped. You, Cashin said, his voice carrying through the silent hall. You are the reason he has no voice. Elias stammered, pale and sweating. Mr. Valerius, I don't know what. My partner, Cashin announced to the room, to the city, to the world. Julian is my partner. And you broke him. Cashin leaned in, whispering something only Elias could hear. Elias's eyes rolled back in fear, and he slumped, fainting dead away before Cashin even cut him. Cashin dropped the unconscious man like a sack of trash and turned back to me. He ignored the shocked onlookers. He walked back, his face softening only when he reached me. Let's go home, he said. That night there were no separate rooms. Cashin carried me into the master bedroom. He stripped me of the expensive suit and laid me on the bed. I told you, he murmured, hovering over me, his golden eyes burning with an intensity that consumed me whole. I destroy what hurts mine. He kissed me then, and it wasn't the frantic, drugged kiss of 3 years ago. It was deep, possessive, and agonizingly slow. He kissed the silence out of me. I arched into him, my hands tangling in his dark hair. I couldn't say I love you. I couldn't say thank you. So I showed him. I pulled him down, skin against skin, heart against heart. I let my walls crumble. I let the mute janitor die and the alpha's partner rise. In the afterglow, as we lay tangled in the sheets, the moonlight washing over us, Cashin traced the line of my jaw. You don't need a voice to rule, Julian, he whispered sleepily. You have mine. From this day forward, I will be your voice. And you will be my heart. I looked at the man who had hunted me, trapped me, and then freed me. I thought of the twins sleeping safely down the hall. I thought of Elias, broken and humiliated. I reached for his hand, interlacing our fingers. I brought his knuckles to my lips and kissed them. I am yours, I signed against his skin. And for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like a prison. Felt like home. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Julian take control of the alpha's heart without speaking a single word, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a man who threatened to take your children, even if he did it out of love? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,